Today, we are starting a series of materials dedicated to the key principles of thinking that underlie all decisions, from personal development to the creation of complex technological systems. My name is Alexander Solovatov, and I'm the media manager at Elata. And the first question that's important to start with is, why does thinking even matter? Most people perceive thinking as something self-evident, as a process that just happens. But here is a fundamentally important point. Not all thinking leads to results. You can think a lot, analyze, discuss, and still not move forward. Or you can think in such a way that every decision strengthens the outcome. The difference lies in the quality of thinking. There is a kind of thinking that does not lead to any changes. It is stuck in repeating the same ideas, doubts, and reactions to external circumstances. There is a type of thinking that can be called productive. It leads to decisions, actions, and concrete results. This distinction is precisely the key point. If thinking does not produce results, it does not fulfill its function. This is especially important in professional and technological environments. Any system, any product, any business is, first and foremost, the result of decisions made. And decisions are always the consequence of thinking. This is the basic logic. The quality of thinking determines the quality of decisions, and that in turn determines the quality of the result. And if a mistake occurs at the first stage, it will inevitably show up later on. Many things can be compensated for with resources, time, or effort, but weak thinking cannot be compensated for. This is the foundation. Practice shows that people with the same opportunities achieve different results. The reason is not in the resources. The reason lies in how they think. One person sees limitations and stops, while another analyzes and looks for a solution. One acts out of habit, while another reconsiders their approach. And it is precisely this that creates the difference. It's important to understand one more thing. Thinking is not just a process, it's an asset. Just like time, knowledge, or capital. And like any asset, it requires investment. Most people invest their time in actions, but hardly invest any time in thinking. As a result, there is an overload of actions without any real growth. A person is busy, but not effective. This is a critical mistake, because without quality thinking, actions become chaotic. They may create the appearance of movement, but do not lead to systematic results. If we look at this in the context of technology, the situation becomes even more obvious. Any technological system is built on a certain logic. If this logic is limited or flawed, the system will reproduce those same limitations. This is especially relevant in the energy sector, where solutions must take into account many factors: energy sources, conversion processes, system sustainability, and independence from external conditions. If the thinking of developers is limited by the boundaries of existing approaches, they will create variations of already known solutions, but will not be able to reach a new level. That is why productive thinking is the starting point for development. It makes it possible to see opportunities where others see limitations, to find solutions in difficult circumstances, and to build systematic approaches instead of chaotic actions. But it's important to understand, such thinking does not arise on its own. It requires a conscious approach. If you don't manage your thinking, it becomes reactive, meaning it starts to depend on the external environment, news, opinions, or circumstances. In this mode, a person does not form solutions but simply reacts to what is happening. And in the long run, this leads to a loss of control over the outcome. Productive thinking, on the contrary, requires intentionality. This means setting aside time for reflection, analyzing information, checking your conclusions, and revisiting your approaches. This is not a one-time action, but a continuous process. It's also important to specifically mention the direction of your thinking. It's not enough just to think. What matters is what your thinking is focused on. If your focus is on problems, your thinking reinforces limitations. If the focus is on solutions, thinking begins to create opportunities. This directly affects actions, and actions in turn shape the result. This is especially evident in teams and projects. If a team is focused on finding solutions, it develops more quickly. And this is not a matter of motivation, it's a matter of the structure of thinking. Another important aspect is the connection between thinking and potential. Every person has a great deal of potential, but it is fully brought to life only through the power of thinking. Without well-developed thinking, that potential remains unrealized. This explains why, even with ample resources and knowledge, results may be lacking. Because the crucial missing element is always productive thinking. To sum up, we can highlight several key principles. First, thinking determines the result. Second, not all thinking is effective. Third, productive thinking requires management and development. Fourth, without it, it is impossible to realize potential and build a sustainable system. This is the basic understanding from which any development begins. In the following materials, we will continue our analysis and move on to the next stage: how changing your thinking affects changes in results and in the decision-making system itself.